From the Royal Albert Hall. For the past 9 days, all our thoughts have been with Michael Watson, still critically ill after his fight with Chris Eubank. Our cameras were there that night, and we're here once again to see Lennox Lewis defending his British and European heavyweight titles against Glenn McCrory, the former world cruiserweight champion from the Northeast. I know many of you feel this fight shouldn't be taking place and that we shouldn't be televising it, and I can sympathise with that. It's been a very hard decision for ITV Sport, but the fight is going on, and for us to curtail or abandon our coverage, well, that wouldn't solve anything. I've been joined here by Gary Mason and Jim Watt. Gentlemen, your thoughts on what's happened to boxing in the last week? You first of all, Gary.
Well, I think a lot of people that are generally not interested in fighters or actually what goes on in fighting have found an excuse to make their voices heard. And that's what they've done. They've just jumped on it to make a load of noise, as they always do.
Well, there have been tragedies in boxing over the years, thankfully not too many tragedies, but last week's tragedy was on live television. Everybody in the country saw that. There have been other tragedies just as bad. Fighters have actually died because of them. Boxing has survived through it. It was a terrible accident, but I think we have to look upon it as an accident. It's not the normal in the fight game. These things can happen, it did happen, but it's not the normal. I think the safety standards in boxing are as high as they can possibly be and still be calling it professional boxing. I don't really think there's much we can do to change boxing.
Let's look ahead to the fight coming up. Gary, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been trying to work it out with myself. I've been trying to give Glenn a winning chance. But I thought, well, Lennox is a bigger man, naturally stronger man, and he's got the ambition, which I think is going to be important in this fight, whereas Glenn has been to the top and he's trying to climb up again. And at that stage, when things start getting a bit really hard, he might not find it there to dig deep, whereas Lewis is unbeaten on the way up, so he'll have all the courage and inspiration he needs.
Quick point from you, Jim.
Yeah, well, Glenn didn't cut it as a heavyweight before. He's more mature now, more experienced. He can probably put up a show, but it depends, does he really believe in himself?
Thanks, gents. We'll be back with the fight very shortly. And welcome back to the Royal Albert Hall. Let's take a closer look at the two fighters. Lennox Lewis, the unbeaten champion, and the challenger, Glenn McCrory. He's a really popular fella from Anfield Plain in County Durham. McCrory's been a world champion at cruiserweight. He beat the African Patrick Lumumba on a wild night in his native northeast 2.5 years ago. Making that weight, though, was an awful task. McCrory's much comfier as a heavy. He's always been a good trainer. He's adopted an army-style regime for this one, living the life of an infantryman with the Green Howards at Catterick for the last month. My feeling is he'll retire if things don't go his way tonight.
I've never been fitter. This is probably the biggest challenge of my life. It's a very big fight. But I'm as ready as I could ever be. I could never be any fitter. I could never be any stronger. So I'm just looking forward to getting in there and do my best.
Lennox Lewis boxed for Canada in the Seoul Olympics, winning a gold at super heavyweight. In his last fight, he dispatched a former world champion, Mike Weaver, making it 16 fights, 16 wins. Lewis says he's a man on a mission. He represented Canada because his mum emigrated when he was just 12 years of age. Gradually, the British public have taken to this quiet, dignified fighter.
This is a next step up. Glenn McCrory is a stepping stone for me, and I'm going to go in there and prove it. He feels that he can come from a cruiserweight to a heavyweight, and everything's going to be all nice and cheery. But I'm gonna help educate in the heavyweight class.
At the weigh-in this lunchtime, Lewis, age 26, looked very relaxed before his first defence.
Lennox Lewis, 16 stone, 7 pounds.
McCrory, 27 last week, is a big outsider. He went to the scales wearing his jeans, but he's still giving away a lot of weight.
Official weight for Glenn McCrory is 15 stone 11 pounds.
Both fighters are in the ring, all set to go. Your commentators will be Jim Watt and Reg Guttridge. First of all, the ring announcer, Mick Goodall.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event of the evening. Frank Maloney for Championship Enterprises is proud to present the contest of 12 3-minute rounds, sponsored by the Ladies Sport and the Sunday Sport, to decide the heavyweight championship of Great Britain and Europe. Introducing in the blue corner, wearing the red trunks from Stanley County. Lewis, 16 stone and 7 pounds. The officials appointed this contest are the very possible role. The steward in charge of Mr. Frank Butler, the EBU supervisor, Mr. John Morris. The judges proceeding, Mr. Adrian Morgan of Run, Mr. Hickey Man from Leeds. The referee, Mr. John Boyle from Wolverhampton. The fine keeper, Mr. Peter McCann at the end.
So the referee then is John Coyle. Now this is under European rules. That's the 10-point must system. That's 10 and then 9 and the appropriate number to the loser of the round. That's normally beyond 8. I'm surprised when McCrory's 15-11. I thought he'd come in perhaps over 16 stone, but Lennox Lewis 16-7. He only weighed 16-3 when he defeated Gary Mason in the 7th round at Wembley last March. Well, Glenn's an articulate sort of a fellow, and he's taught a good fight, and let's see if he can do something with it. I think Lewis will want to establish himself the authority right away, and he's certainly doing that. Now, he didn't do this against Mike Weaver last time up. There's bangs around the ribs. He was beaten in the Cruiserweight Championship, remember, Glenn McCrory, with a body punch, but that was very weight weakened. Only 13 stone 8 those days. Well, we've seen on 19 nearly all of Lennox Lewis's fights. This is the liveliest start he's had, Jim, really, although he has had some one-round wins.
Well, I think tonight, Reg, you consider he's in with a cruiserweight. There's no reason he can't march straight in here to get down to business. I don't think he feels McCrory has enough power to trouble him. I think he wants to intimidate McCrory as soon as he possibly can, and he might just have managed that.
Well, he had a 58-second win at the Albert Hall last year, and he had 4 in the one round, but I think this is... McCrory showed a bit of guts there. He took some good shots on the chin and got himself back. Don't hold to McCrory and going for Lewis.
Lewis just seems so much bigger and stronger already, Reggie, doesn't he?
Beating a man of Mike Weaver's caliber, admittedly very much a veteran, but he did it with a perfect textbook punch, a right-hander in Lake Tahoe. Not getting out the way of McCrory's. Plenty of guts though. Normally he boxes a bit and can slip punches, but he can't this one. He's catching him with every kind of punch.
See, Lewis
a minute to go.
Lewis has nothing to worry about what's coming back his way, Reg, and he's just moving right in and doing as he likes so far. He's run some blood already for one of those uppercuts.
The throwing some artillery at him, though, Lewis, the uppercuts, overarm punches. Full marks from McCrory, he's hanging in there, but for how long?
He'll have to be more mobile. He can't cover up and stand his ground. He's going to have to move.
He thinks that was the bell, the referee. I thought I heard the bell there, though, Jim. I know it isn't. It's 21 seconds to go. It looked as though he was going to dive in, although I think he was going to pull him off the corner there, Jim.
Just as the referee moved over him, McCrory threw a couple of little punches, maybe changed his mind. But this can't continue much longer, Reg. McCrory is not mobile enough. He'll have to use his legs, but already he's feeling the pace.
The roughest I've seen, Lewis, I'll tell you that. And the cheering, actually McCrory surviving, I think, more than Lewis's murderers round there. Well, gentleman Glenn on the gown there, on the tunics there at the seconds, and he certainly is. There was plenty of guts going in there, wasn't there? He's only had one recent fight as a heavyweight, and I wondered whether he really had sufficient credentials. But when it comes to the heart, he's got plenty of it. And in replay, Jim.
Yeah, well, Lewis just doing completely as he pleases. That was the uppercut that started the blood from the nose. It's always difficult for a cruiserweight to come up and challenge a heavyweight, especially an up-and-coming heavyweight coming towards his peak. See the edge? Lewis is just moving and doing as he pleases, not the slightest worried what's coming back from McCrory, just totally dominating the action. This can't continue much longer.
Well, you never know the way any heavyweight contest can turn around, but it certainly looks most unlikely. He's looking over to the corner and nodding there, Lewis, getting orders from the seconds. And the Americans have said, well, we think this kid might be the best on the block of the young fellas coming up. And he's out to prove it, because he's already been half promised the job. That's what pro boxers call getting a contest. A contest on the Tyson Holyfield show on November the 8th. Oh, the right hand uppercut did it. And John Course showing the finger count as well to make sure that he understands it perfectly. Get a mandatory 8.
See, McCrory's managing to prevent the clean punches landing, but as soon as Lewis lands cleanly, I think he's going to be out of there, because he just has too much strength, too much power for him.
McCrory's been saying that Lewis hasn't really fought anybody that has his ability, but Lewis has taken the play away and the fight away from him, and a long right hand. Now that was a replica of the one that he caught Mike Weaver with, and I don't think he's going to make this count now. 9, and he's out. He's out in the act of rising, they call that. And the referee was quite right to count McCrory out in the second round. Well, he gave it all that he got there just in that last half minute, Jim. There was a great fight back by McCrory, but he was hopelessly out-punched.
Well, you have to say, very impressive action from Lewis. I mean, McCrory called himself a heavyweight. He came in to challenge for the heavyweight title. Lewis went about the job as a heavyweight should. He parceled him up, never allowed McCrory into the fight at any time, completely dominated him, then got him out of there. Thankfully, McCrory didn't suffer too much as far as punishment is concerned.
So that's hard as well for what they call the cut man. Jimmy Tibbs is in the corner, who of course was with Michael Watson last week. So look at those powerful shoulders. Well, he's carrying the sort of hopes of the nation on those shoulders, isn't he? And they're heavyweight champions in Bob Fitzsimmons, and he never fought in this country. Cornishman. So taking the plaudits, Lennox Lewis, and rightly so. And as we look at the replays now, this is the first knockdown, Jim.
Yeah, see, you have to be troubled by an opponent's punches. If you're not, then you just go in and do exactly as you please. And a good little shot. The first clean shot really that landed was the one that troubled McCrory. Brave enough to come up off the floor, try to get back into the match, but he didn't have the artillery. That one just whisked by, just caught the edge of his chin.
Yeah,
and
that was, as I said, Jim, as I said, that was almost like the Weaver punch. I mean, he's got that right hand, like poleaxing punch. You see, bingo, just caught him on the side of the chin there, and over he went. Well, we've had some chances of Britain's fighting for the championship of the world a long way. Gunnar Moore, Jack Palmer, Tony Farr, Don Cockle, Brian London twice, Henry Cooper, Joe Bugner, Richard Dunn and Frank Bruno twice. Now, can this fellow make it? He was born in West Ham, reared in Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 1 minute 30 seconds from round 2, McCrory having failed to beat the count, the undefeated heavyweight champion of Great Britain.
So he worked up a sweat, but really that was about all, and gets the European belt. John Morrissey, Secretary of the Boxing Board of Control, who's represented as steward for the European Boxing Union on this contest, and he gets the Lonsdale belt replaced, and it'll, certainly as far as Europe's concerned, it's going to take some special heavyweight to try and knock him off the pedestal. And there's McCrory now. Sad for him as well. I think his wife, Mandy, is asking him to get out the game. He's got so many other things to do, acting, running a bar, modelling, the whole bit of TV commentating, and he's very good at that too. So with so many belts around, he looks almost like a bandit. So let's get another opinion then from the man who knows one of these days might shift him, Frank Bruno.
Frank, what did you think of Lennox Lewis' performance?
Impressive, you know, pretty impressive. The referee could have stopped holding him a little bit, but it was pretty impressive.
Now, he started better than I've ever seen him before.
Yeah, usually he starts very, very slow, Gary, you know what I mean? But this time, not taking nothing away from Glenn McCrory, you know. He was a cruiserweight, he had one fight as a heavyweight, so I think he should have had a couple of more fights. I'm just glad he wasn't hurt after the Michael Watson case and everything was okay.
Yes, I mean, people watching at home would think, well, that wasn't much of a match, really.
It wasn't much of a match, but, you know, I'm just glad that everything's okay and he's healthy and he's on his feet and everything's okay.
Just dealing with Glenn McCrory, presumably he should retire now, shouldn't he?
Yeah, that's a natural thing for people to say, you know what I mean, that he should retire, you know what I mean? It's rude for people to say that he retire because he's a fighter, he's got a mortgage to pay and he's got a lot of bills to pay, he's got a wife, he's got kids, so...
But we are talking about health and he's got nowhere to go.
Yeah, you
now.
are talking about health, Gary, you know what I mean? But boxing, we all know that boxing can give, you know, not give you bad health, it can be bad, driving can be bad, everything can be bad for you, Gary.
Right, let's talk about Lennox Lewis. Now, is this boxer world class, real world class?
I'm not too sure, you know what I mean? He's got to have someone standing up there in front of him what can hit back and stand up, but they're guiding him at the right pace at the moment, so we just got to wait and see. Only time will tell.
Will Frank Bruno be the man up there who tests him?
I'll tell you, Gary, I've been at the ring for 2.5 years. I've got to get my first fight off the ground, and then you ask me that question about a couple of months' time, and then I'll answer it a bit more better, Gary.
Well, let me just ask this. Let me sort of look forward. Supposing you come through the tests, we hope you do, and I'm sure you will over the first few fights. Do you see yourself fighting Lennox Lewis? Because he's claiming to be the best heavyweight around here. He's the European and British champion.
Somewhere along the line, it'd be a roadblock, Gary, you know?
How would you fight Lennox Lewis then?
I can't really tell you on television, you know. I keep my secrets close to myself, you know.
You are at the moment. I'm trying to get him out of you.
Right, yeah. I thought the boxing news banned you from being around there.
The British Boxing Board of Control, just for tonight, actually. It's fairly sensitive, so
Yeah.
I'll be talking to the boxers in the dressing room a bit later, but I'm getting the opinions out of you at the moment because we're delighted to see you around, bubbling again, and obviously itching to get back into the ring.
Very, very itching, you know, Gary.
Right, now, I've been disappointed in Lennox Lewis in the past, but I have to say that...
But you've been disappointed in so many boxers in the past, you know what I mean? Every time you get up there, you make a name for yourself being disappointed.
Well,
you was
I'm in a situation now where...
You're disappointed in that one, you know, but still, you're making a name for yourself there,
Well, I'm not
Gary.
trying to do that. I'm trying to look at things analytically. Now, Lewis, if the British public can keep faith with him, presumably has now got a really good chance of going for that World
you know what I
Championship.
mean? He's done everything what's asked of him, you know? So you can't do no more than that. You've done everything what your editor tells you or your governor tells you to do, you know? But sometimes you get a little bit naughty.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
I'm being kind
naughty.
to you tonight, though.
Yeah, you're very kind, you know? I got to buy you a drink.
Not at the moment because you're in training. But with Lewis now, he's going to America. The one worry over here is, are we going to lose Lennox Lewis to the American scene? Because there's some talk about him signing a four-fight deal with the Duvers.
Four-fight deal with the Duvers, but the man's got to, you know what I mean, make his bread or make his call wherever it takes him. If it takes him America, it takes him America. You know, that question you got to ask him. You can't ask me that question. You got to ask Frank Maloney or Lennox Lewis himself.
You've had 2 shots at the world title. I mean, is this the country to breed heavyweights, or do you in the end have to go to America?
I think in this country they're getting very, very hungry, the heavyweights, you know, because like with the recession and there's young guys, they're breeding them very, very fast up and down the country, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, London, Tottenham, all over the place. So in a couple of years' time, you never know, Gary.
Good, I've enjoyed sparring with you tonight.
Thank you very much. Cheers. The ball weren't bad in picking you not to go up there, but you've been very cool today, Gary. You take it easy.
Well, thank you for calling me Gary and not Harry. It's a nice
no
change.
problem. You look like Harry with them glasses, but you're a bit more bigger than Harry.
Yeah, I certainly am.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Good,
nice one, Gary.
Good to join you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, decent little scrap, that one, between Gary Newborn and Frank Bruno. Went on a bit longer than Glenn McCrory and Lennox Lewis, but on a serious side, delighted to see Glenn McCrory up and taking notice and congratulating Lennox Lewis on a fine performance. We have more boxing action to come. We're going to get the views of Gary Mason, and as Gary Newborn said, he's going to be talking to Lennox Lewis. That's all to come. Rejoin us for that. Welcome back to the Royal Albert Hall. Lennox Lewis has retained his British and European heavyweight titles, stopping Glenn McCrory very decisively in the second round. Gary Mason, I think you always felt that the fight was going to go that way.
Yes, well, it was a predictable win. Lewis did what he knew he could do. He went out there knowing that McCrory was a cruiserweight and didn't have the power to trouble him. And you saw, by the way, the fast start, he went out, took it straight to him, he was bombing away. And the one thing is, when you're a heavyweight, if your opponent can't punch, you have no respect for him. And Lennox Lewis showed that there when he went out.
Just before we have a look at the action, you fought Lennox Lewis. In fact, he finished your career, didn't he, earlier this year. Have you seen a vast improvement in Lennox Lewis tonight?
Well, I felt the improvement in Lennox Lewis on March the 6th.
Right.
I generally didn't believe in Lennox Lewis until then. And even again tonight, although he won this fight, but it's very scrappy. Lennox is a sort of opponent a sort of fighter, I think, that rises to the occasion. We didn't finish Glenn conclusively, but because it was a bit scrappy, but he seems to be that sort of fighter. When he fought me, he fought a complete different style of fight, which was the right style for that fight.
Now, Gary, I said earlier on, I thought the British public was slowly taking to Lennox Lewis. I know you raised an eyebrow at that, and the reaction of some of the fans here was a little bit cool towards him, wasn't it?
Well, what it was, Lennox is considered as a foreigner that has come in, and like he's beaten me just at a time when I think people are beginning to accept me. And then he's gone on and he's fighting Glenn, and everybody loves Glenn. And then the next one, then all of a sudden Frank's coming back, so they think, well, Frank's our man, let's jump on behind Frank because let's get Frank to bash up the Canadian sort of thing. That's how people are seeing it. But I think, I generally, after watching Lennox again tonight, and even from a biased point of view, which I will have obviously, I think Lennox could well go on to be a real good contender, because people say they still consider him a novice, but when you think that he's beaten someone who's had 35 fights and didn't lose any of them and could punch, and like he went through that and he did beat me, regardless of what I think or anybody else thinks, he did actually beat me on paper. So I think he's ready for most things.
We'll hear more from you in a moment, Gary, but let's go down into the dressing rooms because Gary Newborn is now talking to Lennox Lewis.
We're talking to you nice and early, Lennox, because the fight finished nice and early from your point of view. Why did you start so quickly tonight?
Well, because I had a lot of confidence going into the fight, and I wanted to be taken really seriously. I didn't think that Glenn McCrory took me that seriously, so I wanted to prove to him this is what the heavyweight class is all about.
It was the best performance we've seen from you, but did you get extra confidence in starting like that because you were fighting what it was in effect a cruiserweight in the past?
Not really, because I realized because he was a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight, he would have that added speed, and because my team behind me got me in really good shape, I felt really confident going out there.
Well, we can show you the moments that mattered here in the fight now, and this is the first knockdown. So what are your comments here? I had him up against the ropes and I knew he would be ducking, so he was really ducking into my uppercuts, and John Davenport always said to me, look at what you see and just react off of it. Well, this is the finish and your concentration's really there.
Yeah, he said to just keep that jab up there and then throw a left, right, and it was a glancing right hand that hit him right on the chin that ended it all.
Lennox, have you looked at your career and thought, why am I getting all this criticism from people like me and from newspapers you read and at times the British public? And have you sort of thought, now I've really got to move up a gear?
I've been reading a lot of criticism in the paper. I realize there's a lot of jealous people out there, but I think it's good that I get that criticism because that makes me work really hard. I got criticism going into the Olympics Games, and I won that. I got criticism going into my first professional fight, and I won that. And I think, keep all the critics coming. I like the comments. It just makes me work that harder.
Well, you certainly did the business tonight. Now you're looking forward to America. I mean, there is talk about you going to box in America. There's talk of a 4-fight deal with the Duvers, etc., etc. Are we going to lose you now that we're seeing the best of you?
No, I'm still going to be boxing under the same flag as the British flag, and I'm going to go over there and, with all the country behind me and to do good over there.
But you are going to box still here in England?
Oh, definitely.
How far away do you think you are from a world title shot?
I would say within a year.
Right. Now, looking at Glenn McCrory, I know it's not your business, but what would your advice be to him now? Would you pack it up now if you were him?
If I was Glenn McCrory, I wouldn't say pack it up. There's still a lot of heavyweights out there he could beat. It depends on how he feels.
Can I just ask you one final question? I mean, obviously it's a very sensitive week for British boxing, and everybody, including yourself, will be sad about what's happening to Michael Watson. But from a professional's point of view, how have you viewed this week and your own career and your thoughts about it?
It was really sad to see that happen to, especially a nice guy like Mike. And, I made sure I took time out to say a little prayer. It opens your eyes a bit about the profession that we're all in. But this is the profession that we've took, and we realize the dangers involved.
Your opinions are always worthwhile because they're considered. Now, what are your considered opinions about your thoughts about the profession you're in?
Basically, I just want to go out there and achieve my goal and then get out of the sport.
Does it worry you, the danger of it?
No, I think it's just an added thing. There's danger to every sport, and it depends God's will, what happens.
Great. Lennox, congratulations tonight, good performance. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Lennox Lewis, an excellent performance inside the ring and talking well on behalf of his profession outside it. Gary, when you look at an interview like that, I mean, he comes across as, as a considerate, as a nice guy, as a clean-cut sort of fella. Do you think what's happened here tonight might just tip the scales a little bit his way, and a few people will go into work tomorrow and say, I tell you what, it's not a bad lad, that Lennox Lewis?
People will do that, but what we must remember, that boxing is show business with blood. That's all it is.
Just talking about him and looking at his performance tonight, I know early on we criticised Lennox and we wondered about the power of his jab in particular, and he's really worked hard at that, and he's now got what every potential world heavyweight champion really needs, and that is a real dig with his jab.
Yeah, Lennox's jab is very good. He's got very long arms and a very good reach. I underestimated Lennox's power. I didn't think he had the power, but he has an accumulative effect with the reach and the style, so that makes up for the power. And he's a lot stronger than people imagine he is.
We haven't had a world heavyweight champion this century. Do you share his feelings that he's going to be fighting for that world title within a year?
Yes, after Mike Tyson has fought Evander Holyfield, whenever there is a winner sorted out, they will be looking for a European, because a European is going to bring the money in and bring all the excitement. And a European who's actually won the Olympic gold medal is the biggest draw there is. If one of them fight another American, all the American comes with his gum shield. But a European brings added interest and more money. Remember, this is business. You've got to think where the money's coming from. So Lennox Lewis, ex-Olympic champion, ranked number 6, boom, give him a fight.
Right, Gary, thanks very much indeed. We're going to end the chat there and get some more action.